All right, and we are live. Hello, and welcome to episode 32 of the Gaming Perspective podcast. This is another great episode. We had a record-breaking episode last week, and we look to continue the trend this week. And we've got a great guest with us tonight and the usual panel. So we're going to do some introductions, but I have to do a little bit of back patting, if I will. So I know Jared has been off for the past couple of weeks, but the good bearded man from Calgary, he's not from Calgary, I butchered that. He's going to hate me for that. The great bearded man from the Alberta Canadian way has joined Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore, which is a very familiar set of websites on this podcast for some reason. Don't know why. But congratulations to him, and really excited for him and the future he brings there with his great guides and everything else. Can't wait to see more stuff from him there. So big congratulations to him. And we'll move right into the introductions of the regular panel. So joining us, Mr. Samuel Save Transfers Tolbert. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well because I am compatible with the next generation, and that's a good feeling. You know, your progress should always carry over. I'm sorry. I got to do a bit every week now. I got to keep upping the ante with my name. It's been fun. It's been good. A little more relaxed this week. Certainly nothing to match the craziness of what happened the week before, but it's good.
Absolutely. And also introducing from the sunny lands of Florida. Maybe it's sunny. It might be raining. Who knows? And also from the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Mr. Eric Jackson.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Looking forward to another show. Got Rand here. I guess there's a lot of stuff to still talk about, right?
There is.
Yeah,
there is.
Well, I don't know if you read the topics list or not, but apparently nobody does.
I did read the topics list. But I kind of do I do that thing too. Like I kind of peruse it because I don't want to overstudy it. Kind of want to be able to freestyle a little bit sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, we've made a minute and a half into the show, and Miles and Sam are already making Randall Tomato jokes in the chat.
We got to blame Jez for that, honestly.
I blame Jez. I blame Jez for everything. So
what can we not blame on him? Filmic? We can blame him for that.
Well,
sure.
He's no longer Filmic though.
Yeah, I know this.
He got a Series X, and suddenly 30 frames ain't good enough no more.
Yep.
So, also introducing for the first time on the Gaming Perspective podcast, the man with a million himself, Mr. Randall Thor. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited to talk to you guys about, whatever you guys want to talk about. I glanced at the topic list, so I'm just I don't know. It's Saturday night. I'm actually kind of energized. My sleep schedule's been like off the wall lately, so I'm actually kind of like awake and ready to go. Actually getting excited about video games again because there was a stretch there where there was nothing to play. After I finished Ghost of Tsushima, I'm like, can a good game come out now, please? Because, there was nothing. And, sometimes when there's nothing good to play, you just, you get on Xbox or get on PlayStation and just sit there and be like, there's nothing to do. But Mafia came out, and that was good. And I've been playing Crash 4. I also got Star Wars Squadrons. And, I'm going to pick Sam's mind. He is the insider. He holds all the secrets.
Here we go.
Okay, so I'm going to reset Sam's name next episode. It'll be Samuel Insider Tolbert going forward.
Oh, God, that's a step down. That's a step down.
But it's a step in the right direction. So I guess this is a big deal to a lot of people. I don't know. My Twitter feed blew up about it. I didn't really care. So they added Steve from Minecraft to Super Smash Brothers. And apparently the ball pit at Burger King got really enraged about this. And by the Burger King ball pit, I mean the Smash community, which is apparently filled with 12-year-old children, are like, who likes Minecraft? So apparently Steve, the female version of Steve, which I can't remember the name for, Enderman and Zombie are all playable skins in Super Smash Bros. Does anyone here even own Super Smash Bros? Because I don't.
No.
I do. I don't play it often, but I do own it.
The only Smash Brothers I ever played was the one on GameCube, which was, I believe, Melee. And I thought at the time, this is a bad game.
There we go.
Oh man, I already like this guy.
Oh god.
This is going to be great. Yeah, so Steve from Minecraft's added. It's a big deal, I guess, in terms of brand crossover. You have, Microsoft and Nintendo cozying up once again for some more shenanigans. Probably the biggest thing since like the Marvel and Fortnite crossover that totally wasn't cringy either. But yeah, I guess it's cool. It's a new character. It's the second character in the 6 Fighter Fight Pass. And the rest of them are supposed to come out before the end of spring 2021, apparently. But I don't think they got a lot of time to do that. So, yeah. Banjo and Steve, you can now put those two against each other in Super Smash Bros. If you wanted to, I guess.
It's a big deal for the brand. I'm not invested in the sense I don't really care which characters get added. It's just, it makes sense. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's been rumored for a long time that Steve would be added. And I was I was up at the time, and I was watching, and I'm like, okay, it'd be interesting to see who they reveal. And I was like, oh my god, it is actually Steve. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Minecraft is, one of the biggest games in the world. But like, I did watch a lot of reactions from a lot of Nintendo YouTubers, and like, they were not happy whatsoever. I'm not in the Smash community, so I don't know what they want. I think they wanted Dante from Devil May Cry, which, to be fair, would be a cool addition. But I just thought, like, if you're Nintendo and you want to grow your game, if you want to introduce more people to Smash Brothers, what better game to do it than with Minecraft? Minecraft is going to open up more eyes to Smash Brothers than any other game you could potentially think of. Like, there's going to be a ton of kids, a ton of young adults who love Minecraft who are now going to be like, oh, like, what is this game that Steve's in? Like, oh, Smash Brothers? And maybe you convert some of those people into fans of the franchise and it become lifelong, fans of Nintendo. Like, it makes like the most obvious business sense in the entire world.
Oh yeah.
And then you watch like the stream today that they did, and it's like, wow, they did a ton of work to make everything feel like Minecraft. I mean, I think it's a smart play. Like, I'm not going to play it. I'm not a fan of Smash. I don't really even care for Minecraft, but like, kudos for Microsoft and Nintendo to come together once again. Now, this, of course, opens up the questions if Master Chief's going to join Smash in the future, because there's always those rumors floating around. But yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, it broke Twitter, didn't it? I mean, Twitter was literally dead the second it happened.
I think my favorite part of that was someone retweeted it into my feed, and I was like, could you see how upset Sakurai was that he had to announce Microsoft money hat into his game? I'm like, the dude looked ecstatic. Like, that guy always looks happy debuting new characters and everything else. I want them to introduce Master Chief and Doom Guy, since those are both Microsoft first party characters now. Just have those two just rip and tear through. I just want to see Mario get ripped in half by Doom Guy, and let's call it a game.
Nah, you guys are way off. There's a perfect character out of what will be considered like the Xbox camp that would actually fit Smash perfectly.
What?
You want to take a guess? Sam, you should know this one. I think I talked to you about this one.
Maybe, but like, hit me anyways. Hit me.
The car from Forza.
Ori.
Ori, no, Ori. Yeah. Yes. I agree. Ori makes perfect sense.
Yep. But no, on the whole Minecraft thing, it's not something that moves the needle for me, because I'm not at all a Minecraft player or fan. I do play Smash. I play it more so like with my nephew. I'm not very good at it. It's not a game that I sit and play tons of, but it is a huge thing in the community. So I know that would like excite some people and piss some people off, but ultimately it is a very smart play for them to put that in there, for the fact that there are kids who absolutely love Smash. When I was working in the middle school, I'm actually in elementary school now, but the middle school, during lunch, they would have various tables just like set up, and they'd be all huddled around like the different switches that kids would bring in, and we would allow them to do this, and that's what they would be playing, Smash.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of play makes sense, because now, like, it's going to bring other people in who, may not have paid that game much attention, but Minecraft is huge. It's a big thing. So
they announced earlier today, I believe, as part of Minecraft Live, that there was like over 131 million monthly players, something
Right.
absurd like that. Like that game is still massive.
Yeah, and like you said, like if this wasn't just some, hey, let's just throw it in because it's popular. Like they took the time to have it make sense in Smash,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever, like, if there was ever a game where it never felt like it was money hatted or it was like a poorly added in thing, Smash, as a general rule of thumb, they put a lot of thought and effort into the reveal, the character being added. Like, there's so much thought and love kind of put into that franchise. But like, I am so terrible at that game. I could get dusted by an 8-year-old in that game. Like, I am so bad at Smash.
It's such a non-mechanic. But I am actually in agreement with you guys. I would like to see like Chief in there or Doom guy. Get that Doom Isabel team up going.
Oh my god! If I could be Doom guy and just huck Isabel at people, I would. Done. Sold. I'll buy Smash and all the DLC passes.
And like Rand said, I know people, like the fan base really wanted Dante, and I'm just kind of like, I know there's another counter to that where people are kind of like another sword character. That's why they always throw in the Fire Emblem character. And it's like, you don't need another sword type. So I think that's what they're trying to do too, is just balance it out and mix it up. Have some different play styles in there and everything. So
yeah, absolutely. And if all else fails, just add more Fire Emblem characters.
I just want Ori in there so I can smack Mr. Game & Watch with a hammer.
That's fair. We got some Ubisoft stuff to talk about. Anyone remember that game? What's it called? Hyperscape. You remember the Ubisoft Battle Royale game that everyone was super excited about when they were getting paid to stream it? Well, apparently it's not doing well. So Ubisoft's entry in the Battle Royale sweepstakes went into open beta in July, and while the publisher was thrilled with the response, it didn't exactly reshape the competitive shooter landscape. In an update post today, Ubisoft acknowledged that we are not able to achieve the high expectations we set for ourselves with the full release on consoles that followed in August, and many players felt the same. Because of that, Ubisoft is restructuring its development team into a cell-based format, similar to the setup used by developers on Rainbow Six Siege. Each development cell will be focused on one of 5 pillars that Ubisoft has determined as key priorities for the successful future of Hyperscape.
So they're revamping it, is what you're saying.
Yeah. In a roundabout PR way, this game sucks, and we're going to try to make it not suck.
It's interesting that it kind of did, because you're right. Like, people were paid to play that game, right? When it came out on PC. I also think like not having it launch on console alongside the PC version also didn't help. Yeah. I don't know why more people don't look at what Apex Legends did right. I mean, granted, it's Respawn and they are a god tier studio, but still they kind of laid the groundwork. It's like, if you're going to do it all together. And it like kind of big at first because everybody was kind of getting paid to play it, and then it kind of died off on PC. And when it came to Xbox and PlayStation, it was just like, what are you doing that's different from whatever game I'm currently playing? Because you got all these big games as a service, live service games on both systems, and it's like, you need to be doing something incredibly better or unique to pull me from PUBG, or to pull me from Fortnite, or to pull me from Warzone or Rainbow Six or any of these games. There's so many of them, and it's like Hyperscape was just like, I mean, what was it like? It's basically Unreal Tournament. It's basically a Twitch shooter in the genre of a battle royale, and I don't really think console gamers were interested in that style of shooters. Really, that really fast Twitch shooter is not popular anymore. Like we saw Cliffy B come out with Lawbreakers, which, granted, a little bit different, but very much a Twitch shooter, just like Hyperscape is. That game failed, just like this game failed. I just don't think there's a market anymore for those fast-paced, twitchy shooters, and I think that's why Hyperscape failed. Outside of the fact that the market is extremely competitive when it comes to battle royales and multiplayer shooters in general. Nice try by Ubisoft, but I can't imagine a year from now, like maybe in a year from now, we get the announcement that they're pulling the servers. Maybe if more people.
It's just like, and they don't even have a lot of the features that they've hyped up, like the crossplay. I don't think crossplay is even in yet.
No,
And
it's coming sooner. They said they're rushing it out now because
they need it. But the thing is, like, Warzone has crossplay. That's one of the most compelling things about Warzone is I can hop in there and my friends on PS4, can play with me as well as my buddies on Xbox. Apex Legends is getting crossplay, and it's coming to Nintendo Switch. Just, I don't know. I tried Hyperscape. I wasn't a fan. I didn't like the shooting. I thought the shooting was very weak, even though I actually thought the movement was really good. Like, I liked how twitchy the characters move, but I like those older style, Twitch shooters anyways. But the shooting felt off, and I don't know. What are you doing differently? That's the thing for me, is there's enough battle royales right now. I can go back to PUBG, or I can do Warzone, or I can do Apex Legends. Like, these games exist.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with battle royale games. As someone who played a ton of them when they came out, like, I played every battle royale game as it came out. I even played the culling at one point. That was fucking terrible. But yeah, like, the thing is like, when PUBG and then Fortnite followed, and then Call of Duty had the unique perspective of they literally can just money force themselves in and be like, hey, we're popular. Outside of that and Apex Legends, those are kind of like the big four with Battle Royale. And we've seen a ton of games try to break in from smaller developers. Like, we saw the Culling try, the Culling 2, the Culling redone again because they just won't let it die. We saw the Darwin Project, which was a Xbox game preview game that I think that's dead now too. There's a ton of games that's just hyper competitive, and there's a lot of big players that are trying to get into it. The only recent one that I can say is honestly even worth downloading is Spellbreak. I did a review on that. It's all right. Like, it's not phenomenal, but it's different. You're shooting spells, you're doing magic, you're doing a bunch of different things. It doesn't feel like any of the other ones. But just another first-person shooter battle royale game. Warzone and Apex kind of do that better than anyone else could mechanically.
What do you think's more surprising? That Hyperscape kind of failed, or that Battlefield 1's Firestorm failed?
So that's an interesting question. Full disclosure, I didn't play Battlefield 5. I didn't. It wasn't a game I got into.
It was Battlefield 5, right? I said Battlefield 1. My bad.
Yeah, no, Battlefield 1 was very successful.
Yes, very, very successful.
Huge. Battlefield 5 was when they decided to leap off a cliff in the marketing and a lot of other stuff, and how they handled stuff. And honestly, the way they handled updates and the way stuff went out, like, I don't know any Battlefield players, even hardcore fans, casual fans, whatever, who were happy with how that game was handled. And I think that was a very contributing factor, is like, by the time it came out, there was already a lot of bad will around the game, if that makes sense. I think that was definitely part of it. And also just the free-to-play aspect. Fortnite is free-to-play. Warzone is free-to-play. Apex Legends is free-to-play. Spellbreak is free-to-play, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I thought I don't play it, so I had to double-check. Like, Battlefield 5's was locked behind the $60 purchase. So...
Yeah, and it was also not very good because I'm big into Battle Royale, like PUBG, 800 hours, like a lot of fond memories playing with my buddies. I have like maybe 300 hours into Warzone, and I love Battlefield. Like, if you were to say, like, outside of Halo, what is my favorite multiplayer franchise, like, to go to modern shooter, it's Battlefield. Like, I love Battlefield. I was always one of those guys. Like, Battlefield is better than Call of Duty, and that was a hill I was willing to die on. Like, you have Battlefield Bad Company and Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. Like, these games are better than the Call of Duty games, right? So I was like, all right, Battlefield 5's out. They got Battle Royale. Like, you can see what all these other studios are doing. It's like, it's going to be good. And then it wasn't. It just wasn't very good. And it was like, man, how'd you you really screwed this game up, DICE. So, yeah, I guess, like, the takeaway is you're going to have to do something really unique, and you have to be free to play. It's like, even brings up the question, like, the next Battlefield game. Is the next Battlefield game going to be free to play, or is it going to be a hybrid of, like, Call of Duty Warzone, where campaign and multiplayer is paid for, but the Battle Royale mode will be free to play? So I wonder how they continue with that.
I'm guessing hybrid. I'm guessing hybrid. I think if they were really bold, they would do the entirety of the multiplayer. I don't think they're that bold. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't EA already said that the next Battlefield is next gen only for fall 2021?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to double check on that. I thought they had, which is the right call, in my opinion. Battlefield is known for, advanced physics, destruction. Like, making that next gen only, they can do some visually impressive things, especially because I don't want us to go down a rabbit trail, so to speak, but like, I don't know what Call of Duty is going to do next year because their whole cycle is way out of whack. And is Infinity Ward going to be ready? Are they're still going to be cross-gen? Almost certainly. That game isn't going to be next-gen only. So Battlefield has a chance there, but DICE needs to get some things in shape for sure.
Yeah. I've bought every Battlefield game day one. Not buying the new one day one unless they can do something absolutely mind-blowing. Battlefield 5 was just bad. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't even play the game long enough to get them to the release of the Battle Royale because that wasn't even close to launch. Wasn't that like 6 months later, 8 months later? It was like way down the road, wasn't it?
For Firestorm?
Yeah.
It was well after launch. Yeah.
I want to say it was like March or April when the game came out in September or October or maybe November, I forget. But yeah, it was definitely, and I think Blackout. Did that come out when Black Ops 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out at launch. Yeah.
Yes, because like Blackout was already out, I think.
Yeah, Blackout had like a 5-month lead on Battlefield's Battle Royale. Which definitely contributed to that.
It's gonna be interesting to see how DICE rebounds because from all accounts, like Battlefield 5 didn't sell well, and they spent a lot of time reworking Star Wars Battlefront 2 to their credit.
Yep.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how people. First off, I would assume Battlefield 6 will be modern, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to go back to modern warfare, which is good because that's what Battlefield does well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Like I can't believe that they really screwed that up. But we may be entering the point where it's just like battle royale games are just the genre is just too saturated. And you like everybody's kind of playing their game, and considering all these games are going to be move forward to next gen, like Fortnite's going to move forward, Rainbow Six is going to move forward, Apex Legends. It's like these games aren't going to be losing their player base because it's not like this is going to be the first time. Well, I don't think it happened last gen, or from the 360 to the Xbox One in the same way that it's about to happen now.
Nope. So
like. All these games are going to be rolling in the next gen with essentially all their user base. So like any new titles is going to have to be even better, which is a really, really tough thing to ask, so.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even adding onto the list, dude, Warzone, they're not even Call of Duty. They had the sense to not make a new battle royale. They're just going to transition Warzone over to Black Ops Cold War and presumably keep that going for whatever many games after that. Like that thing is making them stupid money. No reason to shut it down.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, our resident battle royale guy, any closing thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, that's my jam, man. That's my jam. I'm to tell you how crazy this year is. Hyperscape was announced this year, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was announced and I think launched in beta the next week, I think. Wasn't it?
Yeah, they tried to do the Apex Legends thing where they're like, look, it's playable now.
Right. Because I vaguely remember like talking to you guys and saying, oh, it actually looks pretty cool. Looks like it could be something, right? I swear that was last year when we had that discussion.
dude, time is different right now.
It really is.
Time is different.
But for the fact that Nick put it in the topic, and I was like, what the hell is Hyperscape? I had to literally go look it up. I was like, that was this year. Okay. And that's about my extent of Hyperscape. I'm like, what the hell is that game?
Eric, allow me to blow your mind and remind you that Mark Cerny's ASMR video for the PS5 was also earlier this year, in case you didn't remember. Just
thanks. I need something to play before I go to bed tonight to just
it's relaxing, man. It's relaxing. I'm not I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion.
No.
Yeah, we're in the vortex, man.
Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah, I just think I agree with Rand. It's just the market's very saturated with, and it's not even like it's saturated with, like, we hit a point in the 360 generation where everything was either a third person shooter or everything was an FPS shooter. And like it was very, very oversaturated, but some really good games kind of bled through and took market share back and forth all the time. With this is like PUBG, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warzone. These are all games that have player base that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Like to get someone that's put like 900 hours into Warzone to switch games, you got to do something insanely unique to do that. And from what I saw of Hyperscape is I was just like, oh, Ubisoft's making a Battle Royale game 3 years late. Cool.
Yeah. Even Microsoft realizes that because Halo Infinite's multiplayer is free to play.
Yeah.
If you're a multiplayer game now in 2020 going beyond, you literally have to be free to play if you want to compete with anybody. If you're not, you're kind of just dead on arrival.
Yep.
That landscape has changed now. Yep.
And seeing some in the comments here from Glorious War, it makes me wonder when Factions emerges for The Last of Us Part 2, whatever form that takes, I wonder what that looks like.
$59 with The Last of Us Part 2 remaster included.
Yeah, that's
$20. No, I'm kidding. I hope.
I mean, you would think it would be free to play, right? Yeah. It would probably make the most sense. Well, would it? Like, because Sony's all about PlayStation Plus. They really want to push that, but you don't need PlayStation Plus to play Factions online, assuming if it's free. Nick, you did bring up an interesting thing. It's like kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, they're making you pay for Spider-Man Remastered, right? If you want it, you have to pay an extra $20 on top of Miles. What if they be like, here's Last of Us Part 2 Factions. Oh, no, by the way, it comes with Last of Us 2 Remastered for, 50 and then 70 or whatever.
Well, if I was going to put a price on this, like if they I think free to play would make the most sense. But as you said, with the tie to PlayStation Now being on free to play games, I could see them somehow working PlayStation Now into it. So if they put a price tag on it, I could definitely see them going like, I think if it was multiplayer only, I want to say it'd be $30 because I enjoy The Last of Us's multiplayer, but unless they majorly overhaul it in a big way, there's no way it's worth more than $30.
Yeah, well, $30 for this gen. However, Sony bumped the prices up $10 for their first party, so now maybe you're looking at $40. Maybe it'd be a Miles situation. Miles is what, 50 and 70, right?
Miles is 50 and 70. Yeah, it's 50 for Miles and then 70 for the Ultimate.
Or if you live in Canada land, it's 70 and 90. Yay!
Your syrup bucks suck. We all know.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, Sony has a lot of different ways they can go. They can make it free to play. It can be a standalone release that you pay for. They could make you pay for it and bundle in a Last of Us 2 remaster, so they literally make you pay for it twice.
I just get this impression, like, and I could totally be reading this wrong, but I get the impression they want the multiplayer to be big. I feel like that's why they bothered to even just say, okay, we're not including it with The Last of Us Part 2, but just get the game out and like we'll work on this later. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like they want this to be way bigger than the first one was, and I have trouble seeing it be that much bigger if it's expensive and bundled with a remaster. But they could totally do that. They could totally go that route. We'll have to see.
Well, I guess what we'll finally see, and it's something that's always been really curious to me, is because there is a lot of fan love for The Last of Us's multiplayer because it is good. It is really good and unique for its time period. But I always wondered, what did that correlate into numbers? Like how many people were really into the multiplayer part of The Last of Us versus the people that played like the campaign, the single player only, and like what was the split on that? So like, is it a big risk to do a Last of Us own multiplayer only title? I'm not debating like The Last of Us isn't a big game. I'm just debating is the multiplayer big enough to make someone go, yeah, I'll pay money for that. You know what I mean? Like if it was free to play, it's like, yeah, that's a no brainer. Someone's gonna see The Last of Us, go, oh hell yeah, I'll try that out. But I don't know. I don't know because I lack knowledge of that community and how big that community was for its time frame. So we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of Spider-Man, yeah, Peter's feeling a little strange these days.
This is weird, man. I gotta say before, like, this is weird. It doesn't matter what your opinion is on it, right? We can all agree, like, this is not something that we thought we'd be discussing at all. It's strange.
Two things. A, I want to remaster me, because if I can get that much of a glow up, I want to remaster right now. Insomniac Games can remake me as a person. Number two is, I have to admit, like, it was shocking. I'm a huge fan of the change. I really like the change look. It's a really good look. It really, really looks like Tom Holland, though. And they're like, no, it's this guy. I'm like, you found someone that looks like Tom Holland, though. But unironically, it's weird that they did that, and it's a complete change, and it makes things really weird. We've never seen anything like it before, but I kind of like it. It looks kind of cool. I'm like, okay, that's kind of what I pictured Peter to look like more. Like, I didn't have an issue with, it's one of those things, like, I didn't have an issue with Peter when I played through the game. I was like, oh, this is great performance, everything else, this is fine. But like with the change, I'm like, I actually kind of like this a little bit better. What about you guys? Where are you guys at with this whole general weird thing?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, interesting. And it looks weird just because in my mind, I just remember Peter Parker looking a certain way and my memories of that game. So I was looking at them like, wow, they really changed the game's only 2 years old and they literally changed the face of the character. And I guess I'm perfectly okay with it. I'll get used to it. I think the people sending death threats to Insomniac and,
Ridiculous.
are horrible people. Like, but then again, it's no surprise. I mean, people do that stuff over Xbox versus PlayStation, and like, it's some of these people are just they're sick in the head, man. Right. But the only thing I think is weird is, like, he looks younger than Miles now. Like, Miles looks older than him, and that shouldn't be the case. Am I the only one that feels that way? Like that?
No, you're not. You're absolutely not. Because my first thought seeing this, and I'm with y'all, it's weird. I don't have a problem with it. It's like, you chose to do it. It's fine. I'll get over it eventually. And presumably they're doing this because he's going to look this way if he shows up in Miles Morales moving forward. But, like, he looked like a man in previously, like, you know what I mean? Like, he looked like he was mid to upper 20s. He looked like Spider-Man. This is like it looks more like high school Peter Parker to me, and that's fine. But Miles Morales now looks older than him, which is kind of weird if he's supposed to be in a mentorship role. Like, it's a little weird. It's also, if they didn't adjust the way Mary Jane and Black Cat look, that's going to be interesting as well. It's mad Miss Robinson vibes.
I forget, how long has Spider-Man been Spider-Man in that game? Was it 8 years? Was it 6 years? Or is it 4?
I thought he's been Spider-Man, like, when he first got bitten, like 8 years.
Right, that's what I was thought. He's been Spider-Man for 8 years, and in the game he's supposed to be what, 23?
24, I thought, but I mean, close enough. The point is, like,
yeah, he doesn't look 24 in those pictures. He looks like he's like 17.
Right.
I do wonder, like, how much is, like, maybe they couldn't get the original face actor to come back for Miles Morales or for Spider-Man 2. And I even thought, like, well, since Sony has the whole, marketing deal with Marvel Avengers, is there a possibility that, like, they bring in this new guy to be face of Spider-Man and Peter Parker and Marvel Avengers?
That'd be interesting, but they haven't who is it? Crystal Dynamics already said that, like, it's a completely different Spider-Man. It's a unique Spider-Man.
Have they? I don't know.
I thought they did.
I don't think anybody cares about Marvel Avengers anymore, but I don't know. Like,
the campaign is good. Everything else about that game isn't. It's weird.
Poor Crystal Dynamics to go from the Tomb Raider games to making a games of service average ass freaking Marvel Avengers game.
Yeah, like forever after Endgame when it makes no sense. Sort of like,
yeah, if that game.
I know they don't tie in at all, but when if you're gonna be on some kind of Avengers hype, And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, like if they dropped Marvel's Avengers the same week Endgame came out, that game would have sold like you wouldn't be able to keep it in stock. People would have bought it just off of hype. But like, was it like when did Endgame come out? Like 2 years ago?
2019.
Oh God. Oh, this year needs to stop. um, but yeah, it feels like a little too late. It's like, oh, cool, the Avengers, yay! But yeah, no, it's a weird The Spider-Man thing's like weird. It's fine. The remaster actually looks really solid, though. I will say
It looks
that.
good. It looks good. Yeah, that's 60 FPS, man. That's 60 FPS. Like it was. Insomniac games are already really smooth, even at 30 FPS. Like they make smooth games no matter what. But it's good now, and like the ray traced reflections in the window panes, like yeah, it looks good.
I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
Knowing everything that you know now about studios, granted we haven't played Miles yet or Ratchet and Clank.
Sure.
If you had to rank the PlayStation studios now that Insomniac's owned, who do you think is the best PlayStation studio now? If you include Insomniac and like all the recent work that they've done. Because honestly, like for me, I was a tad bit... I liked Last of Us Part 2, but I didn't love it like Last of Us Part 1. I thought it had a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played Horizon Zero Dawn, so I can't really speak much on Guerrilla. God of War is like 1B for my game of the generation next to Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
So it's like for me, I love Spider-Man. I love Sunset Overdrive. Like Ratchet and Clank looks phenomenal. Miles is going to be great. Like I honestly think you could make a case for Insomniac being legit the best PlayStation developer.
I will say when it comes to quality and quantity, you can't beat Insomniac games because you look at just what they're doing. Like you said, they're doing Miles Morales and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And like those games are all going to drop within a year window, guaranteed. Like Ratchet and Clank's launch window, Miles Morales's, launch year. We had Marvel Spider-Man in 2018. Yeah, no, this is their studio because like Insomniac Games is lifting. Besides them and Bluepoint, they are the reason people are buying a PlayStation 5 right now. And the thing is like I don't think that I can't see Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica going another generation of releasing like one game a generation. I can't see that continuing. Because I think Insomniac's just churning out so much now, people will start being like, well, why can't the other studios do that?
Well, Naughty Dog released 3 this gen. They got,
sorry. I always forget about Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4, Uncharted Lost Legacy, which maybe you can say is a DLC, and Last of Us Part 2. Obviously, Santa Monica took the whole gen to get God of War out.
Yeah, and to be not to be fair, because this is business and the game didn't come out, but they would have had another game. It's just they had that big expensive sci-fi game that got canceled in 2014.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and then they had to throw everything behind God of War to survive because of that. Eric, do you want to go? Because I'm still thinking. I'm flipping some switches in my head here, and this is a good question.
Yeah. For me, it would be a toss-up between Insomniac and Naughty Dog for different reasons, obviously. I mean, because like Nick said, quality and quantity. I mean, they're kind of doing both, with Insomniac. They have the Jansport on right now, and kind of like doing their thing. But when you look at technically what Naughty Dog outputs, just when you look at what a game can show to sell a console as well, just like Insomniac does the same thing. But yeah, it's sort of like who do you necessarily pick? But the argument can be made for both, like Rand said. I mean, or the argument can definitely be made that Insomniac has shot up like quickly to being like one of their premier studios. And there was probably a time where you would have said Naughty Dog hands down, slam dunk, right?
Right.
But yeah, for 2 different reasons, you could let these 2 battle it out, man. So it's hard to say, but I'll say for the show's sake right now, I would probably say just Insomniac, because like you said, they're kind of going into the next gen or carrying over that crossover generation for them right now. and everything what they've shown has just been fantastic.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. I think
it's a good question, Rand.
I'll say this. I'll say this. I think it's definitely, regardless of how you arrange them, the top three are Sony Santa Monica, Insomniac, and Naughty Dog. Regardless of the order in which you put 1, 2, and 3, I think we can all safely agree those are the top three. No question.
What was the top three again?
Insomniac, Naughty Dog, and Sony Santa Monica. I said I think we can make the argument those are the top three.
I mean, some people would say Gorilla. Some people would throw in Sucker Punch, especially after Ghost of Tsushima.
I would throw Sucker Punch in there just to have some fun. I want to know how they pulled off some of those low times.
True. But
like,
again, that's another studio that basically took the entire gen, because you had Infamous, at the very beginning in like 2014, but then after that, it took them 5.5 years, basically. Yeah. So again, that comes back to the output question. I don't know, Rand. I'm sorry to cop out. I really don't know. I think there's a question of quality versus quantity. In quantity, Insomniac clearly, like, they are doing the heavy lifting. They kind of remind me of what Obsidian is doing, actually, for Microsoft, where it's like, yeah, we're managing a dozen different projects. We're fine. We're strong. We're independent.
We're good. what would you play if day one, like, you could own, like, you have 3 games coming out. Okay. You have God of War 2, you have Spider-Man 2, and whatever from next game from Naughty Dog, a new original sci-fi IP or whatever, Uncharted 5 or whatever. Those 3 games, all day one, you can only play one. You can never play the other 2. Which one are you playing?
Based on the last game that each studio put out, God of War.
Okay. So Sony Santa Monica is the best.
I love Naughty Dog. I guess that's what I'm saying. I guess I'm saying still Sony Santa Monica for me, because I don't know. God of War is an experience, man. God of War it's one of the best things this entire generation. It's utterly magnificent, and I think as much as I do still love their games and I still like what they do, The Last of Us Part 2 definitely showed to me that, like, Naughty Dog needs to rethink some things. It's like, okay, your design clearly feels dated in a couple of ways, and maybe your story ideas weren't as deep in terms of conclusion as you actually thought they were. I still really like the game, to be clear. I still really, really like it. It's not what comes to mind when I think game of the generation, but God of War is. So.
Do anybody believe God of War is actually coming out in 2021?
So I actually had a theory about this. On our last show. I think it can, if it's a smaller Miles Morales type game.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And to be clear, I've got no problems with that. That's fine. If you want to do that, where it's like, oh, we already had this foundation, we're just going to do an 8 to 10 hour God of War game and just really focus on a couple of big moments, but as Ragnarok kicks off, I'm totally okay with that. But unless that's the case, no, that game is not 2021. Not if it's a full-size God of War game. It is so getting delayed to 2022. They won't even say what the title is.
I can't even see Horizon 2 and God of War in the same year, especially with COVID, because I think COVID's going to affect a lot of stuff for 2021.
Yeah,
sure.
I just can't see both those games coming out. I'm just assuming God of War is 2022. They just wanted to make that announcement, and then they'll sometime next year they'll be like, "Oh, sorry guys, 2022," and everyone's gonna be like, "Damn it," like, "Oh, we figured as much,"
Let me just say this. I hope with all of my soul that Sam is wrong, because I do not want them to be doing a fill-in game leading up to the next game for every big game they're doing. I don't need an 8 to 10 hour experience in between the games to fill in the void, so to speak, between the next big release. I'd rather wait 4 or 5 years for the next game than play a little filler adventure that's like, we're kind of progressing some things, but we're not going to touch any of the big things. I really don't want that. The only way I want to see God of War do something like the Spider-Man Miles Morales stuff is if they do a prequel to God of War 2018 to explain that in-between period. Otherwise, just give me a full-bore God of War release in 2022 and I'm fine with it. And I also agree, I do not under any circumstances, like, Guerrilla Games are wizards about hitting dates, but I don't know. I don't know about 2021. If Horizon hits 2021, God of War is 2022. I don't see them both landing the same year.
I believe Horizon is. I very much believe Horizon is, especially now that it's a cross-gen game. Especially hearing that, that makes perfect sense.
You're right. You're right there. I forgot the cross-gen thing. Well, speaking of some studios and everything else, CD Projekt Red found itself under fire this week because the ever scrupulous Jason Schreier posted a report on Bloomberg that I had to use a proxy to get to because Bloomberg tries to charge you $5 after you read one article on their site. So reportedly a mass email went out to CD Projekt Red employees, and to TLDR this, you guys are working the next 7 Saturdays leading up to launch. It's mandatory, and we're sorry. It was a whole thing. We've had the endless conversation about crunch in the industry. Crunch sucks, everything else. We've beaten this topic like a dead horse between Naughty Dog, Ubisoft stories, and everything else. But the interesting part of this is all this story came out based off an email from employees and a handful of employees talking to Jason Schreier, Adam Badowski, who I believe is the CEO of CD Projekt Red. I think that's his title. Head of studio for CD Projekt Red. Actually quote tweeted Jason Schreier's article and included basically the full email, which left out. I'm not going to say Jason left this out because I don't know if Jason had the full email or not. I'm not going to try to throw any shade Jason's way. But so they said to quote the email in quotations, "These last 6 weeks are our final sprint on a project we spend much of our lives on, something we care for deeply. The majority of the team understands that push, especially in light of the fact that we've just sent the game to cert. Every day brings us visibly closer to shipping a game we want to be proud of. This is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make, but everyone will be compensated for every extra hour they put in. And like in recent years, 10% of the annual profit our company generates in 2020 will be split directly among the team." So I'm of two minds of this. I really think there's a difference here, and there needs to be a conversation of what the difference is. I understand crunch is a culture thing, and there's a difference between crunch and mandatory OT. Because crunch is the culture of, I can't go home because if I go home, everyone else on my team's going to say shit about me leaving and yada, yada, yada. It creates a whole culture thing of fear of leaving, everything else. It's really, really toxic. I've worked mandatory overtime like that for like a year and a half before. It sucks. It drives you down and everything else. It really drags you through the dirt. It's hard on your family. It's hard with the people around you and everything else. And not to be that guy, but I definitely did not get 10% of the profits split at the end of the year, though. So my stance on this is crunch is bad. Because especially since it's also for context, Badowski did a whole thing with Kotaku where he's like, we're trying to not to crunch because it's part of our culture and yada, yada, yada. Like they put their foot in their mouth with this majorly. But this is essentially just paid overtime that's mandatory, and mandatory paid overtime sucks, but millions upon millions of us do it every week. So I don't think this is as big of a story as people were running with it. If this had come out, people were unpaid or anything else. People need to read Polish labor laws. You can't get away with half the stuff people get away with in the States that you can in Poland. They have very, very strict labor laws and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So what are your guys' thoughts on this whole fiasco, for a lack of a better word?
I'll jump in on this one because, when I saw this one, I kind of said, you know what, not to go back into that whole crunch thing again. I'm not going to really touch on what we talked about ad nauseum in the past, but in this case, it's paid overtime. So they're being compensated and they're also getting a percentage, going forward. There's plenty of places that I've worked for where there's been mandatory overtime and there is no compensation for it. I'm a salary employee, and this is what we do. You might get comp time, like a couple of days off or whatever the case may be, and sometimes you get bonuses, sometimes you don't. So in this case, yeah, they're being compensated to get the game to the finish line.
Yep.
So to me personally, I think this one in particular is a non-issue.
Yeah, it's way different, and I've seen this. I saw Glorious War post in the chat too. Everyone doesn't keep the same energy for CD Projekt Red that they do for other devs. Well, it's a little bit different because let's see, with Activision, it was, what was it, QA employees working 80-hour weeks being paid for 40-hour weeks. Contract employees being forced into overtime when it's not part of their contract. There is a massive difference between getting paid for your work and someone basically putting a gun to your head and going, if you want this job, you sit at your desk and do your job, whether you get paid or not. There is a massive, massive difference between that and what's happening right now. Like, companies work mandatory overtime. I've worked 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. And I made really, really, really good money, and the government really loved my taxes those weeks too. But it's part of life, and like some people live for it, some people don't, and we're just kind of in a weird world with this whole conversations all over the place. It's been especially skewed since ever since the Activision and the Naughty Dog and the Rockstar stuff came out, and then stuff came out later of the differences of facts and everything else. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not. I mean, there's really. This one's a tough one because on one hand, like, crunch isn't the best thing, but then like you read like, well, they're getting properly paid for it, and like. But then, like, I know, like, well, like, it sets a culture. There's a lot of nuance around the topic that I don't really feel I'm, like, equipped to really talk about. I just see the discussion on Twitter, and it's like, crunch good or crunch bad. And it's like, I saw that Colin Moriarty go back and forth with Jason Schreier. Like, I just, honestly, like, I know personally that, like, I wouldn't want to do that. But if I was being compensated to the way that they are, I'd be like, okay, like, I'm getting my money's worth. It's like some of the other stories that Jason Schreier reports on about like what happened to QA testers with Call of Duty and some of the Naughty Dog stuff was like kind of a different level. So like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what my position is really. I know a lot of people like don't even want to hear about it. It's like, I don't care about the devs' well-being. Like, I just want to play CD Projekt Red. Like, a lot of people don't really think about the human cost of the games that they play, because it's like, but that, I mean, that goes with like anything. Like, nobody wants to think about the human cost of the phone that they use every single day, or like any stuff like that, because it's easier just not to think about it, because if you did, you'd probably be like horrified. So yeah, I guess like with Sam with the question about Naughty Dog and the three studios, I guess I really don't have a definitive answer. So those are my thoughts on it, though.
Yeah, it's, how do I put this? I have a lot of conflicting different opinions where it's, first off, you can, I can't stop you, obviously. You shouldn't ethically take the approach of, just F off, I just want to play my games. Like, you should understand the human cost coming with this stuff. You really should. It doesn't matter what the company is. You should understand why crunch leads to burnout, which leads to people leaving, which leads to disasters happening. See also Dragon Age Inquisition, and how, a lot of BioWare devs who are no longer at BioWare basically said, we wish that game had failed instead of being well received because it primed us for disaster the next time around. So that's the thing. On the other hand, you have studios that crunch, and they, to be blunt, are rewarded for it. Their games sell millions of copies, and more recruits come in, people retire with a cushy paycheck. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to have the answers except to say it's not good. But if you must go through it, then yeah, I'm glad you live in Poland and not America, where you have labor laws ensuring you get paid way extra. Like, doesn't mean it's good. I'm just saying, of the two, it is probably the objectively better situation. I'm going to say something that could probably not get me in trouble, but a lot of people wouldn't like this. I really wish certain people in the gaming industry looked at the other side of the crunch situation, which is how many people get abused trying to make it into the game's writing scene, and how many are crunched to pieces, even at very, very, very big sites. And Jez, no, I love my job. I'm not talking about Jez or anyone like that, but like things I've heard at very, very big websites. Like, okay, you've got a lot of audacity telling developers not to crunch on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to name names. That's just, I find it interesting that what's good for the goose is evidently not good for the gander. That's all I'm going to say about it.
And if I can, just to kind of talk about that human element, because I've talked to you guys about this. I was talking about it on Crossfire last night, and I've gone back and forth with people on Twitter because it is very much depending upon who you talk to, right? And yeah, I don't ever take the tact of, well, screw them, I just want my game. That's just not human to do that. But it's sad to say there are industries that, put products out that kind of fall into this gap, right? Now, I know because we kind of focus on games and the passion of gaming and everything, so we kind of dissect it a little bit different via the Twitter timelines and everything like that. Sure. I said there's plenty of industries where this happens. The sad part is, and to touch on what you said, Sam, is in particular industries, it's very crowded. It's very cutthroat. And sadly, it's hard to really switch and change that culture because there's always somebody behind you willing to take that spot or thinking that they're willing to take that spot to move into it. So it gives employers, it gives, people, sadly, it gives them a little room to kind of be a little bit more dickish about it.
Sure.
If they don't have the wherewithal to say, this isn't how I want things to be because I've been there, and, that kind of thing happens because there's always somebody behind you willing to take it. So it kind of feeds into that nature of, if you don't like it, there's the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, but I've told people too, I was like kind of touch on what Glorious War said, there is a lot of hypocrisy around it. People love to take like this ivory tower approach. And I'm like, there's plenty of jobs where people crunch, they do things. And I said, where's your compassion for them? And I'm always kind of, I lean into it. People probably tired of hearing me say it, but I said, my wife is a teacher and I watch her sometimes 4 a.m. grading papers, doing, lesson plans. I've watched her, especially in the COVID scenario, doing, after work Zoom calls with the students for like 2 or 3 hours because they didn't understand an assignment.
Yep.
She's not getting paid extra to do that. She's doing it because she's a teacher and she cares. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not matter that, she puts in those extra hours. Nobody thinks about that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But people kind of get this whole bleeding heart for the dev thing. And I'm like, I get it. It's like, it sucks because some are in very bad situations and they know they have to provide, they have a livelihood. Some people just get to the point where they burn out and they're like, I'm done. I don't give a damn anymore. I'll go work at the grocery store as opposed to this. Some people like doing it. Some people they're wired that way. It's a weird culture thing that's hard to fix, but it's like Brand was saying too, it's a hard thing to navigate. It's a hard thing to give a complete perspective on because without sounding like you're being completely inconsiderate or without sounding like you're overselling it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge of this conversation. And like my stance on crunch is very different than a lot of people's because I've always worked in production and distribution, and crunch is what you sign up for when you work those jobs. Like, for example, I work in the utilities industry. If I'm crunching, it's because people are without hydro and they're screaming at their utility providers, we want hydro. I've got to get the parts to that line so that it gets fixed.
Right.
So, if we have a major outage, there was an ice storm like a year and a half ago, and we ended up we worked like 100+ hours a week to get everything back in line and everything else. Like people slept at work, everything else. That's how it had to be. No one questioned it. It was part of our job. And that's the thing. It's like, I think part of it, like in a perfect world, all developers work 40 hours a week. They go home to their families. Everything goes butter smooth and everything else. And I think in a perfect world, that would be fine. And I'm okay with that. But we don't live in a perfect world. And some people will crunch regardless if you tell them not to or not. There's people I know that work salary at my work that put in 10, 15 extra hours of work a week because it's what they do.
Mhm.
And no one's sitting there, gun to their head, going, you need to do this. They're doing it because it's their passion, or they have that work ethic. So I'm not in a place where I want to tell somebody who wants to work a 60-hour week, no, you can't do that because you should work 40. But also, I don't think someone who wants to work 40 should have a gun put to their head to work 60 or 70. It's a really complex topic. And for me, it's like, I work in utilities. We're an essential service. You don't have power, you can't use your stove, your toilet. It's way different than developing an entertainment product to be enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the entertainment industry is full of crunch. And the gaming industry is crunch. The whole thing's crunch. It's absolutely hilarious to me. As Sam said, you see all these people that are sitting there on these sites going, crunch bad, developers bad, we should shame them for this. I'm like, you work at a site that literally burns through interns and freelancers like it's nothing. Like, I have friends that freelance, no names given. They aren't on this show. It's fine. It's not Sam. Sam gets treated very well. God, I hate having to use that much context. Where I've messaged them, I've been like, hey, dude, how's your weekend going? Oh, man, I'm like 36 hours on this preview because we didn't get a code till the day before embargo. And I'm trying to get this review done to get to my editor. And I've been up for it. It's nuts. It's nuts. This whole industry thrives on grinding people up and spitting them out 10 years later. We've seen Cliffy B say it. We've seen a ton of ex-developers talk about it. Like, what is telling about the gaming industry as a whole is when people retire from the gaming industry, they go in the complete fucking opposite direction of the gaming industry as far as they physically possibly can from it. And if we crunch less, maybe those people wouldn't go away so fast. Maybe we would still have some of these great creative types we've lost because of this culture.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you fix it? I don't freaking know.
Yeah, that was my end result. Like, I have no answer on how that is repaired. You want to fix crunch? Change labor laws in the United States. That would be a good start. Yeah, and that would go across the board because, I mean, I live in Florida. It's a right-to-work state. It's even because it can break down state to state how things are done.
Yep.
And
South Carolina's the same way, right to work, which, ironic for the name, what it really means is we'll fire you on a whim.
Exactly that. And, I came from, I've been in the advertising world, years in the advertising world, and it was not uncommon to put in 24 hours because, you think you're about to deliver and ship something, or not essentially ship, but get something out. And they're like, hey, this whole section of this, of this ad buy has to change because that whole merchandising structure changed. But guess what? It still has to make it to print, or it still has to make it to, whatever, and it has to go out. And you're like, well, I know I was going to meet you guys for beers, but I'm going to be here until Sunday morning, and that's how it was. And I was salary, and I got to a point where I was like, you know what? That's not what I want to do. And it's definitely different for some people. Some people are in a fortuitous position where they're in a studio that has a name, so they may be able to leverage that to go somewhere else. Some people don't have that, and they might be a little bit more stuck, It's a weird thing to navigate, man. So. Yeah,
and as Mario M put in the chat, it's really true. Deadlines bring crunch. Doesn't matter what you work in. As soon as you slap a date on this project has to be done by this time, crunch happens.
And in the creative, like you said, entertainment field, you're always going to end up butting head with the deadline. Because it's never done. And you hear developers say that all the time. It's never done. Mm-hmm. Like the game that we're doing, or if someone's working on a movie or whatever, you get it out. And that's when you see like the bugs, or you see like a little error. It's like, it's never quite finished. And as the creative side, it's never quite what you want it to be. Yep. But eventually you got to get it out. And you're always going to get to a point where you run into the deadline. It's coming up. It's coming fast. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. All I really hope for is because 10% of their profits is going to be split amongst the developers. I really hope that CD like Cyberpunk just sells gangbusters and they make a fuckload of money, and the developers go and buy a house with the money they get or something. Like, I really have my fingers crossed for those guys. I really don't doubt Cyberpunk's going to sell volumes. It's probably one of the most highly anticipated games left this year. So we'll just have to wait and see. And it'll be interesting to see what we hear about this post-launch, because we definitely heard some more about the Naughty Dog stuff post-launch, and I am definitely thinking we'll hear more about the Activision stuff post-launch of Call of Duty once everyone's out of contract and not NDA'd out the yin-yang, for a lack of a better word. So we got, before we get into our discussion topic, which revolves around the Xbox Series X, we've got some community-based questions, one of which we tackled with the CD Projekt Red stuff. So nice to get that out of the way. We had 2 tomato-related questions, which I will skip for Rand's benefit.
Tomato-related questions. So that's all Jez's fault.
I blame Jez for a lot of things, so it's fine. So one of the big questions was for Eric, actually.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so the question poised for Eric is, Eric talks a lot about different fighting games that he enjoys, but Eric, what is your favorite fighting game to get down on?
Oh man, let me preface this by saying that I'm not as on fighting games as I used to be. Like that used to like really be my jam. But damn, what would be the one now if I had to pick one? Oh, well, Street Fighter used to be like my one, but I would say Tekken. Tekken's probably the one I still play more often. And oddly enough, my daughter is really into Tekken now, so we play together. Oh yeah. I first showed it to her. We were just playing around one day when I hooked up the PS1 Classic just to have a nice little laugh, and she actually liked that. She liked it. You know, she was playing Twisted Metal and she was playing Tekken. I said, well, if you like how this one looks, let me show you this. And I brought her in the room and we started playing Tekken on the PS4. And actually, we also played Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur is another one of my favorites. So we were playing both of those. But yeah, I definitely don't play them as much as I used to. But yeah, Street Fighter was always my jam. Tekken has always been my jam. But Soul Calibur on Dreamcast in particular, hours on that. Because that was just like, that was a game changer. So
nice. We actually got a question in for Rand. Because as everyone knows, he's the man with $1 million. The question was poised. Rand, what is the most embarrassing game you ever played for Gamerscore?
Yeah. So, okay. Let's see. All right. Let me think real hard on this. Like the easy answer is like, oh, I played Hannah Montana, right? But I don't even really think I was that embarrassed by it, right? Or even something like Barbie Puppy Rescue, which, yes, I played Barbie Puppy Rescue.
How was that, Rand?
I think it was... I think the most embarrassed I've ever probably been was... There was... If you guys... Okay, it was a Connect game, and I think I needed one of my sisters to do 2-player with me. It was like... So I was literally me, you know, being fucking... however old I, was at the time, probably, what was that, like 2011, so like 8 years ago, so I was in my like late 20s or early 30s. I literally grabbed my sister and needed her to do 2-player co-op in Sesame Street game or some Nickelodeon dance game like Victorious or something like that for an easy 1,000. Because like with like Hannah Montana, it's like a regular video game. It's like whatever. Like somebody comes downstairs, you can like quickly flip the TV to a different station or do something else. But like, I was literally standing in front of Connect playing a Sesame Street game with one of my sisters. So probably that.
Hey,
so Phil's got that on a VCR somewhere, and he's like, if Rand ever spouts too much insider stuff, we got him.
Man. Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
I can't even say anything because I think the Ratalaika games are way more embarrassing than that. Speaking from my own perspective over the past few days.
Yeah, how are you doing with the Xbox Hall of Fame stuff?
I am not. I was doing really good. I was gonna blitz through and hit about 15K tonight in like 3 days. I went on True Achievements and saw that someone's already at 80,000 in Canada. In Canada, and I was like, "Oh my god, I should have taken 2 weeks off work." Shit. Yeah, apparently, but I'm not sure if it's someone that created a dummy account, because I kind of thought I might have a chance because a lot of the achievement guys do those games as they go. I typically avoid them, so I got a lot of those games. So they are so great. I'm so sick of Metroidvania platformers right now. I just want to shoot myself in the head. So we've got 2 more questions to get through. One's for me and Sam. As the PC nerds on the podcast, because Jared's absent, what is your favorite RTS franchise?
It's got to be Age of Empires. Like it's got to be. And I mean, I have a very soft spot for StarCraft. I spend a lot of time with StarCraft as well. But like, and you know what? And I did get into Total War. But no, like in terms of Age of Empires, I played Age of Empires when I was 5 years old. You know, it was the first real video game or computer game, whatever, that I actually played. Like, it just, you know, my parents were like, "Hey, here's your history lessons," and it worked. You know what? I mean, it worked because it gave me a love of history. I started studying history because of it. I absolutely love that game. I spent thousands upon thousands of hours playing it. So, yeah, Age of Empires.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hate the fact that I'm going to echo Sam, but it's the same thing. Like, I got Age of Empires in a cereal box as a kid. Shout out to cereal boxes giving away gems, honestly. Like, it'd be like the alternative of like opening up your cereal box and being like, "Oh, Skyrim, cool." But like, no, like Age of Empires, Age of Mythology was another one I dumped like 10,000 hours into as a kid. I need to play more RTS games. I need to build a PC. Baldur's Gate 3, baby. I've got 3 days. I got 3 days.
Stadia gang? No Stadia gang?
No, we ain't Stadia gang. I looked at it, I'm like, okay, $80 for the game on Stadia, $120 for the Stadia. And then it's like, oh, Google's not supporting Stadia on this next Google device. I'm like, oh man, they're already dropping Stadia. I ain't even gonna get to play Baldur's Gate 3 on Stadia. It's gonna be dead before I even get there. I'm unfortunately, I'm gonna buy Baldur's Gate on PC and hope to God my PC doesn't explode and just work from there. So we had a question in the chat for Rand. They said the great insider Randall Thor.
Insider. He is an insider.
That's not true.
Who do you think Sony is going after for an acquisition? What do you expect for Xbox in 2021 besides Halo? Wolfenstein 3? ?
Good questions. I'm kind of actually surprised Sony hasn't bought Bluepoint or House Marquee yet.
Yep.
I figured that they would have acquired one of those. The problem is, like, realistically now, or even Kojima, right? Is like with Xbox buying Bethesda and with like Amazon finally showing their plans, and who knows if Google is going to Google and spend money or just kind of do what they always do and just fold projects. I feel like we're entering an era where a lot of publishers are going to get bought up here real soon. And even a lot of independent studios will end up getting bought. I'm sure Sony has their eyes on people. Maybe like someone like Capcom over in Japan. Maybe is like a potential target. But it's really too tough to say. But like Sony typically they purchase studios that they have a relationship with. Like Insomniac, they work with them for years. They had a hit with Spider-Man that made sense to buy them, even though, you know, Ted Price was like, "Oh, we value our independence," but like, you know what you value more? That sweet money that, you know, Sony was going to give you. So yeah, House Marquee or Bluepoint. And what was the other part of the question? Was Xbox going to do in 2021? Right?
Besides Halo.
Besides Halo, I'm sure they'll have a few indie titles that they'll have as like timed exclusive. I would not be shocked. In fact, I'm currently thinking that Starfield is scheduled for 2021. I had heard previously that it was originally scheduled for 2020, but I think pre-pandemic, and obviously, that changed a lot. But like Microsoft is really like, I did a video about it when they announced the purchase of Bethesda. Phil made sure to mention Starfield. Major Nelson made sure to ask Starfield to Todd Howard. In the official Microsoft press release, they talked about Starfield. And then like this week, when they mentioned EA Play was coming November 10th, they made sure to tell everybody again about Starfield. Like, I feel like if Starfield was years away, they wouldn't really talk about it. Because if you look at Bethesda's titles, like, what is the biggest one? It's clearly Elder Scrolls. Like, nothing, like, I know Fallout's big, but Fallout's nowhere near as big as Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to talk about like their biggest franchise, you would lead with Elder Scrolls. Like, oh, and Elder Scrolls 6, because Elder Scrolls 6 is already announced, right? We know it's coming, but presumably that game's years away. So if you wanted to really drive home a huge game, you'd use Elder Scrolls. But I think they know that that game's probably 2023 or 2024 at this point. So it's like, no, it's Starfield, because I think Starfield is next year. And when you look at Microsoft's release schedule for next year, you could be looking at something like Halo Infinite in May, because I do think they want it out in that fiscal year. Like, right. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, it'll be a full year delay. I don't think so. I think it'll be out right now. I think it'll be out in May is like what I'm pegging it at. And then they could have Starfield as like the big November, October release. And then they could, maybe as an outside chance, Everwild releases at the end of next year. I don't really think so. I think like even like something like Forza Motorsport is 2022 at this point. So for like big titles, I think it's probably Halo Infinite and Starfield with probably some Xbox global publishing games. Like, is that Ask Dusk Falls game 2021?
Well,
that was already announced.
So the funny thing, and it's funny, going back to that whole cross-gen thing, Rand, remember when Xbox was the one doing 2 years of a year of cross-gen games and all that? As Dusk Falls is the only one coming to Xbox One out of all the ones they announced. Like Avowed isn't, State of Decay 3 isn't, Fable isn't, but As Dusk Falls is, so that game is probably sometime next year, I would say. Maybe the Xbox version of Flight Sim as well. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Fallout 77, the MMO card game from
no.
No, you know I don't want that voodoo anywhere near myself. You know that. No, I'm just. They do it to Sam Fisher. I'm waiting for them to do it to Fallout. Honestly. But that wraps up the question portion. So this week, Xbox Series X rolled out to a bunch of people. I'm still looking at my mailbox disappointingly, mainly because it wouldn't fit in my mailbox. Gonna fix that mistake, Sony. I will upgrade my mailbox if you send me a PS5. I will get a mail thing. I don't know, be big. But Xbox Series X rolled out to a bunch of influencers / journalists, and hands-on impressions so far have been incredibly positive so far. Now we've seen SSD speeds. Jeff Grubb's done some really great stuff. Jez has done some incredibly great stuff about the sizing. Actually, there was a Windows Central piece that I really enjoyed. I didn't check who wrote it, about how the Xbox Series X and S fit in most TV units from IKEA, I think it was.
That was CNET. That wasn't us. That was CNET, actually. You have to give proper
credit. Was that CNET? Okay.
CNET, yeah. And it was a good piece. It was good. It was very good.
So it's good for those that worry about entertainment units. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to mount my monitors somewhere to fit these giant boxes somewhere. But where are you guys at with the Xbox Series X so far? Like, I know there's all the people going, but the next gen games aren't here yet. But we've seen some really good stuff so far in terms of what it can do with the older stuff. Where are you guys at with that so far? Like, are you impressed with the hardware from what we've seen? Predominantly, the thing I want to move on for is like load times, baby. Oh, I'm so excited for just faster load times.
Well, Rand, they took care of you. They got you one, right?
No. They I mean, I know I wasn't getting one. I'm not like these look, Xbox is looking for reach, you know. I'm small time. So yeah, it was really interesting reading all the comments. I think Microsoft feels really confident in their hardware. That's what this kind of screams to me is confidence in their product. And they've been really like you can say what you want about Microsoft's game marketing. I've been very vocal, but Microsoft really they really do not know how to market games very well.
Yeah.
Like their social media presence is great. Like Game Pass is one of the best Twitter accounts out there. But on the flip side of them not knowing how, like not really being good at games marketing, God, they kill it with the hardware marketing though. Like both the Series X, they've been killing with hardware marketing since the reveal. I think they're doing a great job with the Series S. Hell, they killed it with the One X back in 2017. And so seeing all these people have the systems at like the end of September, and all these people have the systems in the early October when the system's not due until November 10th, it's like normally these consoles don't go out to reviewers until a couple weeks before at most, maybe the week before, because obviously software is kind of coming in hot.
Right.
But yeah, it's all like, I don't know, like reading Jeff Grubb's stuff and watching his videos and Jez's, stuff. And he talked about an Xbox 2 podcast and, who else even had like Tom Warren from The Verge had stuff. It's like, obviously it's really focused on back compat because you don't really need to do, well, no, I don't want to say this wrong. I was going to say like, you don't really need to do anything for it, but that's completely obviously not true. It's like people are still working on Valhalla, whereas like the back compat is just, the team has done the work for the program and the coding, right? And Xbox's whole message has been like, listen, we're about like all the generations here. Yeah. You make a digital purchase or you buy a game with Xbox, like our commitment to you and our promise to you is like that purchase will be honored moving forward. You'll be able to play it. And since they worked their magic with the Xbox One, it's like you figured they would be improved with the Series X, and it looks like it has. I'm still waiting for any, because like Digital Foundry is kind of teasing like the doubling of frame rate thing. Like that might be coming soon where they like go into a game and double the frame rate. But it's really cool to see these games like hit 60 frames, have the load times basically be reduced to seconds now instead of minutes, especially for games that like aren't optimized whatsoever. These are just games that were from this gen. It was like, this is how these games are going to run. So it makes me think like, man, like what is it going to be like when a game is actually optimized for the SSDs? And then quick resume. Like I know I'm not one to really jump in between a lot of games, so I don't know personally how much I'll use it. But for a lot of people that do, it's going to be so cool. Like, oh, you're playing Sekiro, you hop into a different game and you're playing within 10 seconds instead of like, me, I would force quit the game, go back to the dashboard, load up the next game, wait. So yeah, like it's all super interesting. And I know, of course, like trolls would have you believe that the Series X can't run like real games or next gen games, right? That's the kind of the banter I see online. But obviously they have a PR path they're following. So yeah, it's all incredibly positive. People seem to like the controller. I'm just over the Xbox One X at this point. Like I'm just done with it. I don't want it anymore. Ew. I'm just ready to get the Series X and ready to have my PS5 and just be done with this. Like I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but like I feel like this generation overstayed its welcome more so than the 360 and PS3 generation did. Like even though the 360 gen was around longer, yeah, I feel like this gen just overstayed its welcome quicker.
You know what I think it is? If I can interject real quick, because I feel the same way, Rand. I think it's just the CPUs. I think it's just the fact that we're still making, like we made bigger worlds. That's why you saw so many more open world games this gen. Is because we got more RAM. That was the big thing. And later on we got the graphical power, so the games were pretty and all that. We got HDR, and that's cool, but you didn't see a lot of 60 FPS games, and you didn't see a lot of games push innovation because the CPUs weren't much of an upgrade. So no, I'm totally with you. This gen very much feels like, you just glance over at your PS4 and your Xbox One in the cabinet, like, what are you doing? what are you doing for me? What is it like?
Yeah,
I need that. I need that next gen life. I need even if I said this before, and I'll say it again. I understand all these outlets and these people like, oh, the pandemic and everything that's happening, it's more important, and the consoles shouldn't come out this year. It's like, counterpoint. I have the money to spend on them, and I want the new consoles. Sorry, like that's just. But I think that's enough of a counterpoint. Even if there were no new games at all, I would be buying these consoles because I want the quality of life experience, And I've gone back and forth. Don't get me wrong. I've definitely gone back and forth on the financial angle, but just the idea of, your games are loading real quick for you and being able to play stuff at a much higher frame rate and not worry about frame drops or resolution drops, going through, seeing what Digital Foundry is reporting on Hitman and Monster Hunter and the way all those games work. It's just, give me that. I'm good with that. I'm Gucci with that. That's what kids say these days, right?
Yeah. The Hitman stuff, like, you know me, guys, like the Hitman stuff, since I saw the Hitman stuff, I'm like, ears perk up. I'm like, woo. But I have a real love-hate relationship with my Xbox Series X, or not my Series X, my Xbox One X is starting to do some really weird things, and I'm like, just last till November, baby. You getting traded in for $300 at EB Games. And my PlayStation 4 Slim is starting to sound like a jet, even if I look at it in the most not nice way. So I'm really excited for new hardware. And just what we're pushing, like you said, this generation, I'm not going to say it overstayed its welcome, because this was the first generation where I was in a financial place where I got to play a metric ton of games that I would never have played in the generation before. But I felt like when you looked at games at the beginning of the 360 generation with the PlayStation 3 and at the end, it was like, whoa, look how far we've come in design, how the games look, everything else. We made a huge step. With this one, it's like, the animations are prettier, the worlds are prettier. The worlds are so big now that you can't finish a game in under 150 hours, but we didn't see a lot of people like we saw the Nemesis system, which was a cool idea. And okay, you get the point. With more CPU power and finally yeeting, as the kids would say, the Jaguar CPUs into the ocean, I think this next generation is going to see innovation in terms of how we play games and everything else. I know it's stupid, gimmicky crap, but when I was reading about Gran Turismo 7 having different feelings on the triggers for the different cars, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. I like that. That's the weird, stupid crap I love about a new generation. Even if it doesn't get adopted all by every game and everything else, it's just those experiences you have with certain games that just stick with you. And I think it's good to see Microsoft with the Xbox Series X versus what they did with the original Xbox One, is they are confident, but they are not cocky with what they are doing. There is a confidence to what they're doing. And as Rand said, sending this this hardware out basically a month and a week before launch just shows it's done. It's ready to go. Let's go. Bring on launch week kind of deal. It gives you that confidence in the product. Because if all of a sudden in a disaster scenario 2 weeks from now, all of a sudden you get Tom Warren going, my Series X blew up my home entertainment unit. That's going to be a problem. Right? But it shows a lot of confidence, giving people this much hands-on time with the product. And as soon as you get, I really think a trial by fire for any hardware is Digital Foundry by mile. You give those guys your hardware, they're going to be like, hey, this is really cool, but you really cut a corner here. They'll get you on it every damn time. I don't mean that as a knock against them. They're just incredibly talented at what they do. And I'm really I was lukewarm on next gen, even I don't know, 7 episodes ago. Like I was like, nah, take it or leave it. We haven't seen anything. I don't know. And now I'm just like throwing money at my screen, going, "Give me a pre-order." And that's just where I'm at now.
It does make me wonder, like, what the rollout would have been like if 2020 wasn't 2020. You know what I mean? If this was just like a regular year, like what would it have looked like? You know?
Can you imagine what E3 2020 would have been?
Oh man,
I was booked for that. I don't want to think about it.
I know. I'm sorry. I know.
And then there was even rumors that Series X might have launched earlier. Like there was talk that maybe it would have came out in September. Like I just kind of wish, like like what was the plans? Like I don't know. Like it really does seem like Microsoft really like. Look, they flubbed the hardware this gen, right? I think we all can agree. I mean, they flubbed a lot of things, but the original Xbox One, like, disaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an overpriced, underpowered system. Like you bundle and connect with it, and it wasn't visually appealing. And it's like, man, but they turned the corner with the One S and then the One X, and now you have the Series X. And it's like, sure, it may not look as stylish as some other systems. But like for the amount of power it's packing, the fact that it looks like that, like the fact that the PS5 is less powerful and is bigger, is a marvel of design that Xbox was able to do what they did and get it that like small and compact. Like I'm ready. I'm done. Like I said, I'm done with the One X. Like I just want these new systems. I want my 60 frames. I want my 120 frames. So.
Yeah,
man, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
No, go ahead.
In terms of the 120 frames, I can't wait to see all the people I have on social media that follow me go, I can't see a difference on my 1080p monitor. Why isn't this different? This isn't next gen. Okay, go ahead, Eric. I just had to get that on my system.
Oh no, I was kind of going to touch on a couple of points that you guys threw out because they're all really good points. And I was going to say, like to Rand, I think probably some of that fatigue is definitely the fact that we did go through the iterative console process and how exhausting that was with the back and forth. Because we live in this bubble of, fanboyism and the Twitter bubble, and the conversations are nonstop. And, we kind of consume it a lot. And sometimes you have to kind of walk away and get a different perspective. So I think that probably also plays a factor into some of the fatigue. And you're like, you know what, this generation, let's go. Let's move it forward. And then you got 2020 and all this other stuff going on. So yeah, I can understand why in some ways that, that feeling can definitely be there. But to touch on another point, I found it interesting too, when these units were going out and people were, well, why would they send one to this person? They're not really like, an Xbox person. And it's like, well, that's who you want to send it to.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a product, right? And to me, it says, like you said, it says confidence. It says, we feel good about this. We know you may prefer this particular thing, but we want to get it in your hands because you're the person we want to know from. Like, it's fine to send it to somebody who is, Xbox centric or whatever the case may be, but more often than not, they're probably going to be, not that they won't be honest about it, but they're going to be a little bit more down, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can get somebody who says, well, no, I prefer this, and this is kind of where I rock, but they're still, they'll give hopefully an honest opinion, I think in most cases, that's when you want to get it into their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the person that's going to be like, wow. And especially if you feel confident. I say, to me, it was a confidence move. Like,
mm-hmm.
we're putting it out there, and you say what you need to say about it, good or bad, whatever the case may be. I did wonder how the influencer list went, because some people, I was like, it was interesting. I'm like, man, they're putting these things out everywhere. It's like, they sit in a room and say, hey, everybody put in a hat who your favorite influencer is. We'll make sure to get them a system.
I saw Angry Joe got his today. I think they sent out like a second batch. I know Tony Polanco.
The Angry Joe thing was a troll.
Oh, it was?
If you look at the thumbnail, he's not even holding it. And then
okay. I just saw the headline.
Okay. Yeah. I watched the video. It's just like he did it as a troll. Like, they sent it to me, guys. Blah 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 blah.
Well, they did send one to Tony Polanco.
Yeah.
I know they did send one to him and a bunch of other guys like at Gamertag Radio. Shout out to those dudes. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was gonna say, and even Greg Miller was flaunting his around. I was like, man, I need to get on the Greg, hit me up.
But that's,
Take
but
off
that's
your
the
hands when you're
thing.
done.
And Rand touched on that too. It's like, they want people with reach. And that's what fanboys don't seem to understand. It's not, again, they're not sitting around the office and saying, what's going to make the fanboys happy? They're selling a product. They need to get it. They want to get it into the hands of people who they feel are going to have people watching them, And we talked about this on Crossfire, and I kind of brought up the point. I said, to kind of go back to what Nick was asking the initial question about how we feel about these things, the quality of life stuff is amazing. I mean, so for hardcore people like us, I know, again, like Rand said, people are like, well, where are the new games? It's like, we know that kind of stuff is coming. But if you just look at what it's doing, you go, holy crap, man. Yeah. You didn't realize where you were until you see something in action and you go, ha, that's amazing. Right. So but I kind of started thinking in terms of how does that speak to like the casual side of it? Like, and I always, it's weird. I always have like my cousin sitting on my shoulder because he's like the perfect litmus. He's the person that I call when I'm in my hardcore, super fan feelings about something. I call to see how he feels, or did he hear this? And he's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's almost refreshing to talk to him about things because he has no idea what we consume constantly and what we go back and forth over. He's like, I'm playing this, and he'll call me and say, hey, what other game from this is cool? And I'll tell him, and he's off and running, right? So when you're sending it to an influencer, and it's like, I almost feel like in this one part of it, we already know, we're already in. So when we're seeing the reports, it's great to see it, but we already kind of knew that some of this stuff was happening. So I started thinking about it a little bit more at the Crossfire last night. I said, well, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So there may be some months later when they start showing the games and that starts to bring in the person who is the casual, and they start looking, and then they may want to go back and say, well, what else does this thing do? And then they start seeing, they go back and look at these YouTube videos of what else this thing does, So it kind of makes sense. Again, we overanalyze and pick the skin off the chicken nonstop. So it's hard to stop and really think about everything and what all these different things mean.
I really think part of it too is, I can't remember who made the point on Twitter. I'm sorry, I can't remember. I saw it and went, wow, that's a really good point. I really think this is another thing of Xbox is flexing something their competition isn't talking about, is sending your Xbox Series, rolling out your Xbox Series X to like influencers and media and going, here's back compat games. This is just backwards compatibility. Play the hell out of it. And while your competition's sitting there going, back compat? We have that. What about it? No, we have back compat.
99% of the games. When? Don't know. Don't ask us, but 99%.
And we've seen it with Xbox. They're kind of doing the early PS4 thing. Like, when the remaster confusion was going on, they had that, this is how smart delivery works. And they're taking those little jabs and they're doing what they do best and flexing what they can. And Sony does the same thing with their big AAA event games. Both these companies are using their strong points to move their units and showcase their units. Because with Xbox Series X, they're really driving home the point of, this is your Xbox that plays Xbox games. You want to play something from the OG Xbox? Here you go. You want to play something from the 360? Here you go. You want to play something from Xbox One? Here you go. That's what they're trying to drive home. And I think this initial batch showing like this, we're going to see next generation games weeks before launch. I definitely think we'll see some stuff in the next couple of weeks for sure. And same thing with PlayStation. But the thing is they're just showing off a strength that they have really well right now. And this is something the Switch does not have in any capacity. Unless you pay for Nintendo Online and get all those great SNES games. And Sony's just really quiet on their back compat. We can't judge what Sony's doing with back compat because we simply don't know. That's all there is to it. And I think that the way Microsoft is marketing this is smart. And I'm really interested to see what comes out about PlayStation 5 tomorrow from the Japanese influencers that got hands-on with it. And I kind of got to wonder at some point whether we're going to see, I got to imagine PS5s will roll out soon to places like Digital Foundry and stuff eventually. If they're giving hands-on to YouTubers and stuff, I got to feel they're going to start rolling the hardware out to other places.
I wonder if the hands-on is more of a controlled experience
You
Whereas,
mean like where they put everyone in a room? I was like, okay,
Yeah.
here you can play PS5.
where
and
like
capture
they come
footage.
in and they like, here's the PS5, and like you come in and you film your stuff, and then someone else comes in. You know, I do wonder if it's more controlled. But I mean, people are going to get their hands on the PlayStation 5 at some point. If they don't send them out early, you know, when people buy them, you know, Digital Foundry is going to do the breakdown. So, yeah, it's just nice. I'm interested in seeing if we'll get a breakdown of Series S before.
That would be nice. That would be nice, especially for like how many casuals, you know, are going to be picking that up. How many people? Who
Then I wonder if like, do the casuals care? Like, that's the thing. Like, do you really need a breakdown on Series S if the market you're targeting is just like Fortnite players and Call of Duty players? You know, it's also like a companion device. It's for like, hey, you're a main PlayStation 5 guy this gen. Hey, we got some Bethesda games you might like that are going to be exclusive to the Xbox. You might want to pick up this $300 PS5 or, you know, I mean, Series S. But
yeah,
I mean, how many weeks are we till the launch? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
So you got 5 weeks of potential PR. So 1 week could be new games. 1 week could be optimized back compat. 1 week could be Series S stuff potentially, I guess.
Yeah.
I do feel like they'll probably have stuff every single week. We're in the thick of it now. Xbox likes to talk on Mondays and Tuesdays. PlayStation likes to talk on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yep.
Maybe we'll start seeing PlayStations maybe the week of the 12th, like looking at the calendar.
That would make sense. That would make like mid-October.
Yeah, like mid-October. Yeah, but it's exciting, man. Like, just like look like Eric said, the quality of life, right? No longer waiting for these ridiculous load times in games or jumping from one game to another instantly, and having like your entire catalog of games that you've bought like just there. Like you log in with your gamer tag and boom, like there it is in your library, like all the games that you own, and they all run and look better than they ever have before. Yeah. Like that's I don't know, to me that's impressive. Even though I don't use back compat, like the idea of the game moving forward with me and being potentially better than I've ever experienced it is like really cool.
Yeah, it's just nice knowing that like you can. I think you have the option of revisiting if you ever so choose. If the mood ever strikes you, you know, you can come back and do that. It's good.
I'm just gonna say, like, I'm just happy. Like, I remember a year ago, me and Sam talking in DMs a lot of, you know, man, I really hope we don't have to rebuy all our multiplayer games next gen. Like, you know, have to buy PUBG again, have to buy Rainbow Six Siege again. And like the whole thought of how are these service games going to evolve? And the fact that they're just going right along. And like with Rainbow Six Siege, I'm such a huge Siege fan. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to give you guys PC fidelity basically with 120 FPS is the goal. I'm just like, okay, let's go. like let's get right in there. I don't know. I'm all in on this generation. Like I'm so ready for both these consoles, and there's so much stuff they haven't talked about still in terms of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X that the next 5 weeks are gonna. Oh my god, the next 5 weeks, Sam. Oh no.
Yeah. What was that about Crunch? What was that about Crunch? We were talking
What's
about
Crunch?
Hey, I want to say real quick. To talk back on what Rand was saying a moment ago, I was actually listening to PS I Love You, and Greg, I actually forgot about this, but Greg Miller said with the PS4, they didn't actually get any hands-on. It was like, I think a week and a half or almost 2 weeks or so. Like, and they went to, like you said, they went to an event in New York where they actually got their first hands-on, and they didn't actually get one in the office until like a week before it launched. So I don't know if they're going to follow that path again, but
good.
Good.
Well, I remember I think it was on Sacred Symbols a while ago, like old episode. I remember Colin Moriarty saying that like when they did like the UI reveal and everything else, they literally flew everyone into Japan, NDA'd the ever living hell out of everybody, and basically sat in a room with PlayStation executives as they walked them through the new feature sets and everything else, and was like, you can talk about this stuff in like the next month or whatever.
They NDA'd them with AK-47s.
Man, I don't know. Like I've seen people like leak North American developer stuff a lot. You don't see anyone really screw with the Japanese developer NDAs. No one really screws with those. Like I feel like you have to. It's like if you break this NDA, we own your firstborn child. It's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, you ask an exec like, hey man, what happened to your pinky? He's like,
let me ask you guys a question. Sure. The leak that happened today on Reddit from the guy that was charging $100 to see the PS5 stuff, where we got the supposed information that the storage space on the SSD is what 650 gigabytes or something.
Yeah, and he was showing the UI, and didn't he have like a black DualSense?
Yeah, he had a black DualSense. I guess my question was, do you think it's real? Do you think he has like access to a dev kit? Like, what are your thoughts on all of that?
I'm the one thing that threw me off. Someone pointed out is that everything was in Russian supposedly, and like I really have a doubt that if there was a random PS5 in the wild, someone in like a Slavic state would randomly have one. Dev kit maybe, but like. If I was a developer, like Sony would be the last person I'd be like, hey guys, look what I'm doing. I feel like there's someone that's like, if this is a deep fake, it's like the biggest deep fake I've ever seen in my life. Because like some of the stuff that came out of it's insane.
I don't think it's real, personally. I think like the black DualSense is just throwing me here. Like if they had a black DualSense for launch, or shortly after launch, they would have showed it by now. They would have announced it. I'm not saying it won't end up maybe being similar to that. I'm not saying it won't be. I'm not saying they can't do a black DualSense way down the road, or the fact that, 650, 660 gigs, that probably sounds about right for the ballpark of your actual space if they're reserving a lot on the OS. Like, but that particular leak, Rand, I don't think it's real. That's me personally.
Interesting. I don't know the black DualSense thing. I don't know. Like we know that I think there was like a retailer that was doing like a big giveaway, and there was going to be a black system. And even like looking at like launch systems from this gen, just Xbox, it's like they sold the black VCR, but then they made the white one for Xbox employees. That wasn't available to purchase.
True. And
I even think maybe even the dev kit was a different color. I don't know if the controllers were different colors. Like, so it's entirely possible that maybe the dev kit is colored differently than the retail unit. I know people said, well, this is fake because I guess there was like a mouse cursor in the UI, but I mean, I don't know, like that. If it's really a dev unit, maybe it has a mouse cursor. I don't really know much about it, but
that would have to be a dev kit. If it was real, it has to be a dev kit. Though.
I have to wonder, because correct me if I'm wrong, when Al he was on the show a few weeks ago, when Al leaked those PS5 dev kits, what color were those? Were they black and gray? They were black and gray, were they not?
Black and gray, yeah. But the dev kit was also a completely different shape, in case anyone doesn't, because 2020 has been a year. So in case you don't remember, it was like this block, but it had the V shape carved into it, sort of.
Yes.
See, here's my thing, is that so much came out of this leak. It's either, like I said, it's the most elaborate fake I've seen in a long time. Because, like, for someone to sit down, make something that looks like it could be the PlayStation 5 UI, like 3D print a DualSense controller, and go through the whole shebang of doing all this would be super extra. And, like, I know we're in COVID and people have a lot of free time, but I really don't want to believe someone has that much free time.
Yeah, and he only charged like $100 for the video, I think, which somebody paid.
Which is also super weird because I've never in the history of leaked things ever did I see someone have a charge fee at the front of it.
Yeah,
OnlyFans to show that thing.
Oh god. Tiger OnlyFans.
I know how I'm getting my PC for Baldur's Gate 3. PS5 leaks OnlyFans. You just gotta pay me. Let me price on my PC. $1,800 to see beautiful 3D renders of the PlayStation 5 taken from other sources. Yeah, but no, I don't know. We'll wait and see. Hopefully. We gotta know by the end of the next couple of weeks. Like, there's no way. Like, the thing is like Sony's been dragging their feet with showing stuff, but the thing is like y'all got 5 weeks. You literally can't drag your feet anymore. We gotta see UI. We gotta see breakdown. We gotta see this. It's like the complete opposite. Like, Microsoft's covered everything but the next generation games, which is open for criticism. But Sony's been like, hey, look at these games. Everyone's like, yeah, but the system. And they're like, no. Don't worry about the system. Just focus on the screen. Look at the pretty lights. And like, there's upsides and downsides to both of those strategies because like with Sony, I'm like, okay, so what's going on with the hardware? Why won't you show it to me? Are you not confident in the hardware? It raises unnecessary questions when you won't talk about something. And I think that's the biggest problem that Xbox had for a while, too, is if you don't talk about something, people are going to jump to the worst conclusions. It doesn't matter if it's Nintendo, PlayStation, or Xbox. If you leave something to the internet's open interpretation, people are automatically going to take it to the worst freaking way possible. So you need to be clear and concise with your information. Like, Sony needs to talk about the back compat. They've got to show off more of the hardware. We need to see the UI. It's stuff that isn't going to sell your console, but as a consumer, it gives me more faith in your product when you're showing me off this stuff. And Xbox, Gears Tactics, show me that on the Series X. I just want Gears Tactics. That's all I want. And I'm done.
Let me ask you guys one question building on that. What's the first game on each you want to play at launch?
Interesting.
Bugsnax, baby.
While you think, I'll tell you mine. Well, it's Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the Xbox for me, and then Demon's Souls on the PS5. Those are the two for me.
See, for me, it's easy on the PS5. It's Miles Morales, 100%. Xbox is a little bit different. Honestly, I'd probably is going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's the game that comes out that day. I know Lord Cognito's really been pushing for me to actually play Destiny 2. Like, oh, it's all in Game Pass, Rand, and it's 60 frames, like, I don't know.
Don't listen to him. Just don't.
Yeah. But I would imagine I'll probably jump around a whole bunch that day, like play some Assassin's Creed Valhalla, maybe try out some Dirt 5, maybe Watch Dogs Legion. Plus, like, I'm not. There are other like is 12 Minutes launching that day or Tunic? If they are.
That's the thing. We've still got a lot of these games that are like a lot of the smaller games that are like still holiday 2020, and they haven't been delayed yet. Like, I think the Pathless just got confirmed for PS5 launch, just like today or yesterday. It was very recently. That was holiday 2020 before. 12 Minutes and The Medium still are holiday 2020. So it's like, are those day one, or is it more like December? I don't know. It's a good question.
Man, I hope The Medium releases on Christmas Day. I want to sit down on Christmas Day with my family and play that.
fun for the whole family. Fun for
exactly. Eric, what were you day one game wise?
For me, PS5 would definitely be Miles Morales and Demon's Souls. On the Xbox, Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk. I'm more interested now in Watch Dogs Legion than I was before, so that would be one. But the game I'm looking forward to the most, The Medium.
That's fair.
Whenever that does drop. So
Yeah.
So that would be it for me.
Yeah.
But I do want to check out Gears Tactics, even though I've heard like the side mission stuff is probably the thing that drags it down the most.
Mm-hmm.
But I still want to check it out. Still want to give it a shot.
Yeah. For me, see, the thing is like I'm not day one on PlayStation 5 because I'm a wait till I don't have to break someone's leg to buy one up here. But for me, PlayStation 5, the first game I'm probably going to play is either a toss-up between if I buy it when Ratchet and Clank comes out, or Spider-Man Miles Morales is probably the toss-up two for me. And for Xbox, it's either going to be Gears Tactics and just for the absolute weirdness of it all, Yakuza Like a Dragon. Just because I want a turn-based Yakuza. It looks so freaking weird. I'm so here for that. And I can't sit there and cry and whine on social media for 3 years about no Japanese games on Xbox and then not buy them when they come here. So going to be buying that day one.
I'm sorry, yeah, Yakuza Like a Dragon is another one I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And it works out well because Yakuza Like a Dragon, I'll buy it full price, which will be like $100 probably. God damn it. I hate Canada. And Gears Tactics will be in Game Pass. So woohoo!
You know,
Perfectly
thinking
balanced.
about it, imagine if Xbox was still and the system was still launching with Halo Infinite. Like imagine all of this and Halo Infinite was actually launching with the console.
See, here's my problem too, is like I'm sitting there going, first thing I'm going to play on my Series X is going to be this. And I'm like, oh yeah, 7 days later, it's like, oh, Cyberpunk's here. Hello.
Yeah, for real.
Oh crap! Yeah, Mario M. I forgot about the Falconer.
Oh
yeah, the Falconer. That game has 8K mode.
Yeah, it does. It does. It has supposedly, anyways, it has an 8K and a 6K rendering mode. Which...
What? Wait, hold up. There's a 6K?
Yeah. I'm sorry, man.
No. I'm going to have to hear about this on podcast for 6 years.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I'm not even touching that one.
Yeah, nope.
It doesn't exist. Nope. I don't see it. Whatever.
my eyes can't,
that way anyways.
The human eyes can't see past 4K. It's fine. I'm dead. I'm done. Yeah. So I guess that's the show. We will do some outros here. We will start with our guest tonight. Thanks for coming on, Rand, and giving us, of course, all the great insider information that was totally all public anyway.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a fun time talking to everybody. 2 hours went by really, really fast. It's really been 2 hours. I was kind of like looking at the clock. I'm like, man, 2 hours flew by. But I appreciate you guys. It was a great discussion. Love to come back on, sometime in the future.
Absolutely.
Where we can confirm Sam's insider status,
I am all for that. Where can people find you if they want to follow you? If they don't follow you, which I highly doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you want to, check out my YouTube videos. It's youtube.com/RandallThor19. And, there's always links there to like my Xbox profile and my Twitter account and stuff. But yeah.
Absolutely. And Sam, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find I can't even make a joke about it. You can find everything that I do on Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore. And you can come catch up with me at Samuel Talbert on Twitter. Come yell at me like that guy who said 2 weeks before the game came out that I spoiled Resident Evil 3. And come yell at me for spoiling the game. It's just,
how could you spoil Resident Evil 3? The game is how many years old?
Dude, I get weird DMs. Okay, like I don't even get fun DMs. You get people asking you, "Hey, is Microsoft really asking Bungie?" And I get people sending me this weird stuff. I don't know. I don't know.
Hey,
isolate the pandemic, man. The pandemic is doing things to people.
Hey, just remember, I'm the least favorite person on my own podcast.
I love you very much. That's not true.
Oh, so it was your sock account that messaged me. I see how it is.
I don't know.
Eric, where can people find you?
Yeah, great show. I want to say again, Rand, thanks for coming through, man. It's always great talking to you, getting your perspective on things. But yeah, other than that, you can find me on Twitter, EC Jackson with an X. And when I'm not here, Basement Radio Arcade podcast, Wednesday nights at 9:00.
Absolutely. And I'm Nicholas Downey. You can find me on Twitter, permanently just buried at Undead3XVI. You can find me on Xbox at Undead3XVI, playing every Radilaka game in existence currently. And you can also find all my written work at lordsofgaming.net. And I appreciate everyone that's been tuning in the past 3 episodes with Rand. We had Benji on last week and we had Alcohol Cost the week before. It's been a great couple of weeks in terms of turnout and guests. It's just been a great time talking about video games. And man, we're going to have so much to talk about over the next couple of weeks. So I hope you guys will tune in for that. And we will most likely have another great guest next week. So please stay tuned for that. Next Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Gaming Perspective Podcast, episode 32.